The Creative Colosseum would like to begin by acknowledging that we are on treaty land, referred to as Treaty 4 territory, and that all people here are beneficiaries of this treaty. Treaty 4 encompasses the lands of the Cree, Saulteaux, Dakota, Nakota, Lakota, and the homeland of the Métis Nation. We respect and honor the treaties that were made on all territories. We acknowledge the harms and mistakes of the past, and we are committed to moving forward in partnership with Indigenous nations in the spirit of reconciliation and collaboration.
Hello and welcome to the Creative Colosseum. I'm David Roman.
Hey, Dave.
How you doing?
This is our first time testing a distance setup.
Yes.
I'm Allysia. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. You know, we were just saying here before when we were chatting that I'm managing the stress levels, but what artist isn't doing that? So,
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah, didn't you guys talk about in your last episode that you just had? Weren't you guys talking about how every artist is super anxious or depressed? Or
Yeah, alcoholics, drug addicts, mental health issues, all of it.
Yeah.
We're all messed up. No, It is true though in some ways. I don't want to say that you have to be a little out there to be an artist, but in some ways, some of the best art comes from those places, unfortunately. So, and fortunately, I mean, let's celebrate our struggles.
Awesome. Well, on that note, we are going to, I think, have what will end up being a pretty fun conversation. I know that Dave and I both had a lot of fun with planning this one, or at least I did, and I'm just projecting onto you that you also had fun. But we're going to be sharing with you 5 each of our favorite lyrics ever. So this is going to be excerpts from entire songs. So we're not just going to say like the whole song. We're going to give you a specific lyric and we'll talk them through and figure out like, what is it about this specific lyric that catches so much? And maybe somewhere along the way, as we're celebrating these awesome lyrics, we'll, hit upon some truths about the lyrics, why they're so special. Maybe we'll learn something.
I think we're definitely going to learn something, and just a segue from what we were originally saying before. I mean, these lyrics do come from a place of deep pain, deep social change, deep thinking. All this stuff that artists have to go through to find that inspiration. So, before we do that, though, we're going to throw to a quick ad. I mean, it's grandiosity in some ways, or whatever they say, grandizing, whatever the term is.
Yes.
But here we go. Hi. I'm David Roman from Roman Music YQR. Are you looking for affordable music production services without sacrificing sonic quality? Maybe you're a filmmaker who's looking to heighten the emotional resonance of your film with original music. I can do both of those things for you. I specialize in recording, mixing, mastering, and music composition. I've been at it for over 20 years in various genres like metal, rock, hip-hop, ambient, electronic, and dance music. I'm pretty confident that I can take your project to the next level, and honestly, I just love collaborating with new people. You can email me at romanmusic.yqr@gmail.com, or if you want to see more of my past work, you can look at soundcloud.com/romanmusicyqr. I'm looking forward to hearing from you, and I'm looking forward to collaborating. Roman Music YQR, moody music for the masses. Okay. Well, we're going to dive into some lyrics here. So I don't know how, I'm assuming you have an idea of how you want to format this or how you want to get into this. But we both selected 5 lyrics. And I want to preface this too by saying it's impossible to pick the 5 best lyrics I've ever heard. It just is. And I don't even want to look at it that way. I think I want to look at it as these are 5 pieces of art that I find very inspiring, very artistically proficient. They're great. And there's 50 million more.
Yeah, well, and I was trying to persuade Dave before we started this episode. I was like, can we do 10 each? Like just 20?
Yeah.
Can we do 30? Can we?
We'd just be going at it for we'd have like a 10-hour live stream. We'll spend half an hour per selection, and no.
Yeah, it was very sad for me that we couldn't go but for the same reason, it's really hard to pick. So this for me is more of a what's hitting me at the moment A lot of
Yeah.
these songs are ones that I've been listening to for a long time as well. So they're not like new to me, but in this particular moments, as I was re-listening to some of my favorite songs, these are the ones that caught me with their cleverness, with their insights, picking at something that I think is really interesting about the human condition. And I'm also a big
Ah.
fan of lyrics that have a bit of comedy in them too. So you'll probably start to see some themes as we do that.
Yeah. Okay. One thing I just remembered here. So this is going to be just I maybe had a little bit of a technical error. So let me try to solve that. But let's cut to the first one. So we're going to go to A5.
Yeah. So what I was going to ask really quickly, or just
Yeah.
clarify. So we're going to be counting backwards,
Yes.
counting to our number one pick. So we're both going to start with our number fives and go in that order. Am I starting first, or are you starting first?
Yeah. So let's start with yours with Allysia 5.
Okay.
Now
That's the A.
A5.
A
So
five.
I have it
I
all coded.
gotcha.
I woke up this morning, didn't recognize the man in the mirror. Then I laughed and I said, "Oh, silly me, that's just me." Then I proceeded to brush some stranger's teeth, but they were my teeth and I was weightless, just quivering like some leaf come in the window of a restroom. From Kurt Vile, Pretty Pimpin'. All right.
Let me
We're
know
back.
when my audio is
Okay, we're
on.
back. We're back.
We're back. Oh, great. Okay. So that was amazing listening to you recite that lyric. That was 10 out of 10 performance. It's not a simple lyric, I think, to read in terms of the cadence of it. But it's Kurt Vile is just magic. I love Kurt Vile. Kurt Vile's got this like epic jam guitar kind of wash of sound. And the way he looks and the way the music feels, you just assume it's going to be some trippy hippie stuff. It's not going to be it's not going to have substance. But Pretty Pimpin', and even the title of it is okay. What's this going to be about? But it's sort of about disassociation and about being it's like a condition, like derealization or something like that. The idea that you're having this experience, but you're outside of yourself, watching yourself have the experience. But I like the way he comes at that, because it's sort of like he comes at it, the sort of out of body experience, not in a way where it's traumatic or it's a really depressing experience. It's more just like, this is weird. It's one of those, it strikes me as the weirdness of life kind of lyrics. Anyway, I just think this is also where it's kind of funny. It's kind of like the lyrics are very simple. They're not coded. There's no
Right.
deep meaning in them beyond just, I think, a really astute description of that removed from self-experience.
Yeah. You know what? Here's the funny thing. I've actually never even heard of Kurt Vile. So this is a brand new experience for me. I'll have to
You
look
should
it
listen
up.
to the song.
I'll have to look it
Yeah,
up.
it's good.
It's unfortunate, because of copyright, we're not allowed to
Share
play
them.
snippets from these songs. But otherwise, we would totally play those songs. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to my next slide now. All right, number 5, David lyric picks. All right, this is very literal. I'm 29 and society's eating me alive. I'm fighting what comes with this notoriety every night. This is the last time I'll ever open up my eyes. I apologize. I'm not going to lie and tell you it's all right. It's all right. You're going to cry, and baby, that's all right. It's all right. I wrote you the song to keep when I'm gone. If you ever feel alone, you're going to cry, and baby, that's all right. It's all right. So this is by Machine Gun Kelly, a song called Play This When I'm Gone. The first time I heard this song, I bawled. I'm not going to lie. So if you don't know the context of the song, if you know nothing about the song, this is actually a song he wrote for his daughter while he was on the road. And he felt very estranged from her in some ways because he had been living, Machine Gun Kelly blew up with his not his last album, I guess his first pop punk album. It was called Tickets to My Downfall.
That was around COVID, right?
Yeah, it was probably around that time. And it was one of my favorite albums actually ever, to be honest. But he blew up and he was on tour all the time and he was becoming such a big icon. And I think there was a lot of guilt and a lot of, I love that line, I'm 29 and society's eating me alive. It's such a simple line, but it just resonates with so many of us, especially going on through COVID, as an adult and just feeling like, what we were going through was just so intense. And you can feel it in his vocals and how he performs it. You can feel the pain that he's experiencing. And it just resonated with me as a father. I felt like I can't imagine having that kind of burden. And so, Machine Gun Kelly is definitely one of these artists who That more literal than not, but he does have some really interesting rhyme schemes and word plays. But that particular album was a concept album where there was a character who was dating a girl. He was like a emo punk kid, and she was the preppy crowd, and they fall in love, and then she ends up dying, and she was like pregnant with his kid, and like that's like there's actually a whole film. He made a whole film for the album.
And he did like a multimedia kind of thing. That's cool.
He did, and it doesn't happen very often anymore. You know, a few people have done it, but lately, but it's a
Jennifer
fantastic
Lopez.
film. Jennifer Lopez. Halsey comes to mind too. I really liked her film, but
I didn't know she did one.
yeah, and you're going to hear about that in a bit, actually.
But
anyways,
nice.
So yeah, that's one of my favorite. I'm a huge Machine Gun Kelly fan. I'm really sad he's coming to Minot, which is really close by, and I don't get to go because I'm poor and sick. So. Okay, we're going to move on to the next lyric. This is Allysia's number 4.
Right. And when the feeling is over, there's no explanation. Shock to the system, infatuation. Shaped like a flower, strange affirmation. Crown of illusion. Started again. And this is Beck. This is from a song called Chemical. And it's kind of a difficult one to pick an excerpt from because I think the whole lyric of the entire song kind of works to paint this picture. But so this is a track from Beck's album called Hyperspace, and I also think Hyperspace came out around COVID. I think maybe just before, like 2019. It's one of my favorite Beck albums, actually, even though I don't think it's not one of his classics, right? Like his classics, like morning phase, I think is the one that people usually go to, or
yeah.
I don't know why I have these albums and I can't think of the names of them right now.
I definitely know a lot of Beck's songs. I don't know the names of his albums, but I know tons of his songs. Yeah.
Yeah. So Hyperspace is a cool album, but the reason in particular that I like Chemical as a song, and by the way, I'm reading this in like a kind of my lower alto voice, but when he's singing, it's so high. It's like infatuation. It's like he's doing his falsetto, so you gotta like imagine that. But the reason this is a really cool lyric, I think, again, maybe one of the things that appeals to me is switching expectations. So when a lot of people write about infatuation, when a lot of people write about romance, they're writing about it in a way that's romantic. And there's nothing romantic in the song at all, which is really cool because it's kind of describing the addictive, impulsive quality of infatuation, where there's a lot of comparisons with it to a drug or a chemical. One of the lyrics of the song is you say love is a chemical, feel it down to my soul, that kind of thing, which is kind of a weird thing because the whole song is using a lot of physical imagery, like that is just a bodily happening, as opposed to this romantic thing. So then he juxtaposes that with more of the spiritual language, which is very harsh in the song. So I find that to be a really clever kind of contrasting there. And just the idea that it's a drug, it's a chemical, but yeah, let's do it again. And it's not like, yay, let's do it again. It's fun. It's more like, I'm a slave to it. Let's do it again. That kind of thing. It's really cool.
Who can't relate to this concept? That's
right. Exactly.
Well, I guess there's people out there who are aromantic who can't, but
true.
But it's
very common experience though. And I love the way that he extracts all of the like one of the lyrics is shaped like a flower, but I feel like he's taking that flower out of the song in a way, and leaving us with this just biological curiosity.
That's a fantastic lyric. I'm familiar with Beck. I don't know if I'm familiar with that song, so I'm going to have to listen to that as well. This is a great.
There's going to be a lot of that both ways. Exactly. I think today.
Some music exchange going on. Okay, we're going to go to my number 4. Look, I am not a woman. I'm a god. I am not a martyr. I'm a problem. I am not a legend. I'm a fraud. So keep your heart because I already got one. Halsey, I am not a woman. I'm a god.
That's a cool video too.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. And so there's this whole juxtaposition of, the two sides of what we expect women to be. Either you're like this pure, holy, wonderful, divine creature, or you're like a whore who's like reckless and destructive and too powerful and all these things like that. So I know that on that album, Halsey was very much flirting with, or I guess playing with these ideas of trying to accept her role as a mother and as an artist at the same time, and how people would look at you in that role as a mother, right? And I just love that. I love that song because it's just kind of like her, like it's a big FU, right? It's a big FU. It's like kind of trying to put her into this nice, tidy little box, and like her owning the fact that, you know what, I'm messy, I'm powerful, I'm all these things that women aren't supposed to be, you know, and well, at least not pure good women, right? And quotes on quotes for those of you who can't see a camera. So yeah, I really just, I think the first time I heard that song, I really felt that really her grasp or owning her power, you know, and the whole album is called If I Can't Have Love, I Want Power. Mm-hmm. And there's actually a whole film about this album too. So I do like that idea that it's like, no, I'm going to own this. I'm just going to take this and I'm just going to be this, and that's okay. And holy cow, is she powerful in that whole album? Like, just lays it on the line, lays all of her thoughts out there. It's a beautiful album. Trent Reznor's involved, and Atticus Ross, of course, because why wouldn't I listen to something with Trent Reznor on it? Yeah,
it's such an excellent pairing though. Like Halsey and Nine Inch Nails is I don't know, they're just really synergistic because Halsey has like a very pop bent. Or like that kind of side of it.
I feel like in more recent years,
or punk, like
it's become more rock. She actually shows up on Machine Guns Kelly album as well too.
Cool.
I can't remember which one. I don't remember if the one we talked about or a different one. But a lot of these female artists who are pop artists seem to be moving into more grittier genres. At least they were for a while. Maybe that's changed again. I feel like the trends that we have are so quick now. But no, it's a very literal lyric. But if you understand the context behind the album, it's a very powerful lyric. And I think, I really appreciate what they did on that album.
When did that album come out? 2021?
It was pandemic album as well. Yeah. So somewhere in there.
Yeah. 20. I feel like I'm noticing a theme in our selections.
Pandemic themed albums.
The pandemic themed albums. I mean, maybe it makes sense. Maybe that's when we actually had more time to listen to albums.
Yeah. And there's more coming out too.
It was a hot year.
All right, let's move on to Alicia's next pick.
All right. I almost want to, do you have this when you're reading lyrics? You just want to start singing them? I could talk a lot of hot talk at a potluck with my peers, but the walls at home make up the right tone. Quiet, tender, sincere. A little anthill go down the landfill in a symbol of the age, where the dying art be the sum of the parts, and a part is where we stay. This is Mother Mother. I had to pick a Mother Mother. This is a song called Far in Time. It's off their album Eureka, which is not a COVID album. No. I think they released Eureka in 2010 or 2011, something like that. It's a pretty old album, maybe even a little older than that. I actually just saw them perform, which was excellent. Yeah. So I love Mother Mother. I like Ryan Bildemon's lyrics. I think they're finding this balance that I feel like really appeals to me, which is playful but also striking. Right. Has a like kind of incisive quality to it. So I kind of like, and also just the words themselves. So that first line, I could talk a lot of hot talk at a potluck with my peers, has just all this like kind of internal rhyming. It's got this rhythm and it's got this like alliteration with all the puh. So it's a really cool, like if you like words, it's just arranged in a really nice way. But I like the message of it, which has a COVID echo to me as I'm is sort of feeling out the lyric, because it's sort of like, well, I could go and do the social thing and like check the social box, but home is nice. It feels good. The walls are sincere. So it's sort of this, I don't know, extrovert, introvert dilemma. And the vibe of where the dying art be the sum of the parts and a part is where we stay, to me is sort of this like this feeling, which I think is hard to convey, but this feeling of life being sliced into chunks, so you don't have like a whole connected and rich full experience of everything that's happening around you or of other people, where it feels like everything is piecemeal. Like, okay, I'm going to go see my friend at 4 p.m. and we'll have an interaction, and then I'll come home and I'll take that interaction as a memory. And it's very like it's a very almost consumerist way to think about experiences.
Yeah.
Whereas, and I feel like that's kind of what's being described here. And a part is where we stay. So we're kind of sliced up in our experiences, and we're just not connected. Even if I go out and go to this potluck, I could connect with you, but I'm not connected still at the same time.
You know what's fascinating about that is I actually saw this graphic just recently, and it showed like our interactions with people in person, like in the past versus, going forward, even pre-pandemic. I mean, and it's like in every age demographic, to the point where it's like you're seeing people, your friends in person for like maybe 15 minutes a day, maybe like on average. And so
Right.
I like that idea of like COVID did push us further into those.
But it was already happening.
It was already happening.
It was already,
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think as we get older, we can very much relate to.
But it is like it's not even begrudging the walls at home. Like, I
No,
love the way
no.
of describing the home walls as being quiet, tender, and
Yeah.
sincere. I'm like, yeah, that's about right. That's about how being at home feels.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe it's okay, like, I mean, at some point it's okay. We should retreat. We should retreat a bit more and just enjoy ourselves. And yeah.
Yeah.
Great line. I've seen Mother Live once, but they were fantastic.
Oh, only once. They're
Yeah.
so good.
And a long
They're
time
so
ago.
tight.
At a venue called The District for those.
I saw them at the District too.
You did,
That
eh?
was I think that was in 2012.
It might have been
somewhere
that.
around
Yeah.
there.
They played a few times there.
Maybe it
so-
was maybe it was older. Maybe it was like 2010. I can't remember what tour it was they came around for.
Yeah.
Actually, this is even older, but they played at the University of Regina.
I know.
Back in
I have a
Yeah.
really bad inside story about that gig.
You do?
I do. I shouldn't share much about it, but they kind of trashed the place.
Oh no.
Yeah.
They've come a long way in their emotional maturity.
Yeah,
now that
I'd hope
they're
so.
grown up.
I knowing the promoter who was involved in that. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I heard a lot of bad things. But anyway, don't
darn.
worry, people. Don't meet your heroes. Don't never meet your heroes. Trust me. My daughter was singing that the other day. Actually, she was just magically singing "Don't Meet Your Heroes" all morning, and I'm like, "Where did you hear that?" So, anyways,
That's unusual.
it's
It's not
an unusual
like
thing
people
for
have
a 5-year-old
radios
to run around and sing.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, a lyric number 3 for me. Hey, I remember syrup sandwiches and crime allowances. Finesse on him with some counterfeits, but now I'm counting this. Parmesan where my accountant lives. In fact, I'm down in this. Douce with my boobay tastes like Kool-Aid for the analysts. Now, this is Kendrick Lamar, Humble. And Allysia has magically disappeared from her frame. Don't worry, folks. Don't worry, folks. She can still hear
I
you.
thought I was my coffee was running perilously low, so I thought while you were reading the lyric, I could really
I cut back to the wrong camera.
Away.
This is not my technical, not my best performance today.
That's okay. That was my attempt to be sneaky, and it failed. It failed.
This is
Carry
good.
on. Kendrick
People
Lamar.
are seeing behind the curtain. They're seeing how human we are. Anyways, Kendrick Lamar. I'm not even a huge Kendrick Lamar fan. Like, I obviously like some of his stuff. I've listened to lots of it. But I couldn't help but add him because he's just, in my opinion, there's an argument to be made for him maybe even being the best lyricist of this century. One of the best ever for sure. I mean, he won a Pulitzer Prize. That's how regarded he is in terms of his lyrical ability. That the album Damn is unreal. There's just the wordplay, just the tenacity, and he's just so confident and so aggressive on that album in a way that is just, it's so catchy and so infectious. And so Humble, I mean, everybody knows the song Humble. Humble is, I mean, sit down, be humble, that whole song. When you see him perform this song live, like if you watch any videos, it's goosebumps. The entire crowd is singing the entire song. You'll have 30,000 people in an arena singing along with him, and they're all standing up going nuts. There's a great video from Montreal where this happened. But anyways, the particular line in this song that I presented, he's talking a little bit about how far he's come, coming from the streets, the syrup sandwiches. I love that. As anybody who's
I like
hood,
the syrup sandwich line.
right?
Yeah.
And how like he's now, before he used to use counterfeits, but now he's like hanging out with his accountant kind of thing. He's in the same neighborhood as the rich people. The song itself is, I think, a little bit of him mocking himself a bit about trying to stay humble as he's gaining notoriety and as he's gaining all this fame. And if you know anything about Kendrick Lamar's past, like he comes from the hood, right? And he's one of those rappers who just blew up so quickly. And now suddenly he's on the other side of things and still trying to maintain some amount of, not necessarily not selling out, but like, I guess staying in touch with his roots and trying to stay socially conscious of what he's, of what he's doing. And a lot of his albums actually are about him, struggling with, I guess, is it okay for him to talk about a lot of the social issues he talks about? So there was a lot of other songs I could have picked, and I was like having a hard time deciding because he's just got so many great lyrics that are just wild. I mean, the amount of rhymes going on, the playing with the different intonations with the words together, like he's incredible. The amount of stuff he's got going on in 4 lines. I've settled on this one just because Humble is a big deal. It's a big song. And it's a very relatable song in terms of the idea of coming from struggle and getting to a certain place and wanting to maintain your authenticity through that. Great song.
What did he win a Pulitzer Prize for?
I believe for that album. I think it was for that album.
Oh, the album. Okay, cool.
It was either that or To Pimp a Butterfly. Don't quote me, but I know he won a Pulitzer. I did look this up, but I had a hard time finding out what specifically. It might have been just for his collection of works. But yeah, even if you're not into like the music he has, like just read his lyrics. It's something you can just sit and read, and it's amazing. So yeah, that was my pick number 3. So we're down to number 2 now.
Pick number 3.
Number 2.
Yeah.
All right.
Number 2. All right. Okay. This place is a prison. These people aren't your friends. Inhaling thrills through $20 bills. And the tumblers are drained and then flooded again and again. Jumping ahead later in the song, because I really wanted to include this part. And I know it's not a party if it happens every night. Pretending there's glamour and candelabra when you're drinking by candlelight. And that's the Postal Service. The song is called This Place is a Prison. And so if I were lucky enough to be able to do 10 songs instead of just 5, I would have picked a Death Cab song. I would have picked Ben Gibbard is Postal Service was his side project. They only ever did 1 album. And otherwise Ben Gibbard just does everything with Death Cab for Cutie. Okay. And I remember actually, speaking of pandemic memories, Ben Gibbard was one of those artists in early 2020 that was doing at-home acoustic live performances. Nice. And he was like one of the first artists that I saw do that. And he would be like, he'd like jam out. He had his piano, he had his guitar, he had like a pretty nice little setup in his room, and he'd chat with people. And I really I went to a few of those. It was just a really nice vibe at a time where everyone was pretty stressed out. But so about I think this song is about in a 2010 arena as well. But Ben Gibbard's such a good lyricist. He's one of the only lyricists that can use words like candelabra and make it work somehow in a he's able to write in a more of a poetry way. Because I don't know, you've had this experience probably because you write lyrics where poetry is not the same as lyrics. No. Poetry can look great on a page and sound lovely in the head, but cannot be sung because it'll just sound clunky and awful. So I feel like Ben Gibbard's able to kind of straddle that and somehow use these words. Like candelabra is an awkward word, but it works the way this isn't he does this a lot in a lot of his songs. You'll notice these words. You're like, this is a poetry kind of word, not a lyric word, but he somehow makes it work. But I guess I just like this lyric. It's about addiction. I think it's pretty plainly about addiction. This this place is a prison. These people aren't your friends. So first of all, it's kind of like inhaling thrills, like, doing cocaine. Through 20-dollar bills is pretty straightforward. And the tumblers are drained and then flooded again and again is like drinking, right? It's alcohol. It's just this like constant party. I feel like that lyric just sets up this really interesting scene because he's talking about doing cocaine and drinking with people who aren't your friends in this prison of a party. But the language that he uses makes it way more interesting because he's not just saying there's doing cocaine, whatever. It's like inhaling thrills through $20 bills. It's clever. It's a really interesting way to say what you're saying.
It's a great visual.
It is, yeah. Pretending there's glamour and candelabra when you're drinking by candlelight. I like the use of candle twice there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a great song about addiction. That one always resonated with me.
That's awesome. And there are a lot of songs about addiction. So to have one, like I think that lyrically, that sounds like a fantastic representation. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very simple. It's very elegant. The song itself is really simple and stripped back too. It's beautiful.
I had never heard of this artist before either. So this is another new one. I feel like I'm just going to have to go listen to all your stuff after because...
yeah, that's the same thing I'm thinking too. I'm like, I guess I have to listen to Kendrick Lamar's album now.
Oh man. Oh yeah. Listen to either Damn or To Pimp a Butterfly. It's amazing.
I'll start with Damn just because that's where you drew from.
Yeah. Okay. We're on to my number 2. And if you hate the world, let's say I've been there. And if you hate yourself, well, don't go changing. All the times I used your body, done my way, can't say I'm sorry. Rip the gloss off all your memories, consequences so demanding. Bruised and beaten, conscience bleeding, sexually. And this is a David Usher song called Trickster. This was the debut track, or the intro track off of David Usher's debut solo album called Little Songs. Still to this day, one of my favorite albums ever. I went back and listened to this album while I was getting ready, and I found a really good live performance of it on YouTube, and it still hits me exactly the same way it did the first time I heard it. So
when was it released?
99, 98, somewhere in there. Yeah. It's really old. Anyways, yeah. So that song in particular, the album is, there's a lot of undertones of religious abuse on the album. A lot of talk about God abandoning him and those kinds of things. And the tone of the album does have this feeling of like you're wallowing in this pit and you're trying to reconstruct something, and you don't really know what to believe, what to think, and you're trying to find yourself again through all of that. So yeah, there was something about like, sometimes I wonder about this song, if he's writing it from the point of view of the abuser, or if it's or some people have actually thought that this was actually from the point of view of Jesus talking to what people have talking to the people in a weird kind of off-putting way. Because it almost like Jesus being the abuser and being abused at the same time. I've heard of that theory. He's never told us what the song's about. So he doesn't seem to get into his lyrics that deeply.
What do you think it's about?
Well, I what resonated with me is there, like, if you know this particular song in this section, it kind of comes down suddenly and he has this more like pleading type of tone. Like, and if you hate yourself, let's say I've been there. And if you hate the world, if you hate the world, let's say I've been there. If you hate yourself, well, don't go changing. I'm getting it mixed up. But either way, I think that cried out to me a lot in terms of, you're in this really difficult stage right now, but just hold on and just hang tight. And there was something almost apologetic about what he says, even though he says, can't say I'm sorry. The way he's saying it in the song sounds apologetic. Like sorry I hurt you so much. Sorry I ripped the gloss off all your memories. The consequences are so demanding. So if it was from the perspective of like Jesus, and that's what he's writing from, maybe it's like him apologizing for how hard he's been on the human race, right? Like there might be a little bit of that, right? And even the sexual abuse piece, because religion, particularly Christianity, has been very sexually abusive, not just like, literally people from that faith abusing people, but the ideas within the religion have been sexually abusive, right? I guess containing women's sexuality the way they do sometimes, or really stifling us or making us feel bad for our natural state of sexuality and things like that. Like there's a lot of that within religion that can be very, very harmful to people. So, and I'm not, again, I know there's people out there who are probably listening to this who follow that faith and might get something really good out of it, and that's fine. But definitely there's some of us who have gotten some things like that out of it, right? So, and David Usher being one of them, clearly. So, so yeah, I feel like that's what he's getting at a little bit. But yeah, that part of the song is, again, there's a plea, there's apology in how he sings it, how he says it. There's like an urgency for him to apologize almost. That's what it feels like. There's like this running piano line that starts running as he's saying the second half of it. And yeah, it always resonated to me. Like I always felt like I could relate to the idea of just feeling so much self-shame and just looking at the world and just freaking finding it so ugly and just feeling like I've been in some way, I mean, I in my own way, I've been emotionally abused and traumatized by certain things throughout my life that, from that Christian perspective that I wish I never would have been. Right. So, yeah, getting into really deep stuff here. But
wow, no, it's great listening to you. I think this is really cool. It's really interesting to me to hear about you through the lens of a song, right? So it's like I think when you're finding this as a way to talk about life or talking about your philosophy or the pain of religion that's been inflicted on you, it's like the song is sort of a vehicle for a more personal experience, and I guess that's. But that is very meta because that's what songs are for us, I think, in a way. Like the lyrics are like a vehicle for us to experience ourselves a little bit differently.
Yeah. And that's why I really appreciated that David Usher never fully explained this album, to be honest. Yeah. I feel like it allows me to take those things that I'm taking from it and run with them a bit. And it is an album for me that was very formative in general, just not just as an artist, but actually like philosophically. I think it really spoke to the shame I was feeling and to the trauma I had experienced, and it made me feel not alone. Right? It made me feel connected. It made me feel okay with questioning the things I was questioning, and ultimately, there's a lot of depression on the album. Like it is a fairly sad album, and I'm drawn to that kind of thing. But I think I came out of it a little more reflective and a little more willing to tackle some of these incongruencies I was having in my brain about my religious life and my actual views and my sexuality too, so yeah. Yeah, wonderful album.
All right.
Highly recommend this album, and I would say to you, if you're going to experience this album, if you can't experience it the original way, go on YouTube and find his performance for Much Music. He performed the entire album with like.
Was it like an unplugged thing or?
No, it's fairly like. It's a weird ensemble of musicians. I mean, there's strings, there's keyboards, there's guitars, there's.
Oh, interesting.
And it's wonderful. It's incredible.
Cool.
Anyways, okay, we're moving on to your number one pick.
Ooh, drum roll.
I don't have a drum roll sample.
All right, so my number one lyric right now is also the shortest, and we can all marvel at its symmetry together. But I'll read it first. A gift shop at the gun range, a mass shooting at the mall. This is Bo Burnham from a song called That Funny Feeling, which is from his comedy special on Netflix called Inside.
I desperately need to see it.
I can't believe you haven't seen it.
I know. Everybody watched it.
Are you kidding me? Oh, yeah. No, I feel like it'd be your jam because Inside is all about like mental health. But the thing that's really cool about it, and obviously no spoilers or anything like that. I don't know if it's something that can be spoiled anyway. But he does perform every song. So he doesn't use he uses lighting and like visual effects and stuff, but he's always doing his performances in his room. He's doing cuts and stuff, but he's not editing. And it's still like a live comedy performance. It gets that feeling across, which is really cool. And I mean, the music's great. This is like one of my most listened to albums on Spotify right now. I just like listening to it. The album's got great music, but this is That Funny Feeling is an iconic song. If you watch it, you'll understand. If you've already seen it, you'll get it. It's the one that if you're ever on Reddit at 2 a.m, you'll someone will always, if you're reading something doomy about how the world is going to hell in a handbasket, there's always going to be someone who says, there it is again, that funny feeling, because the song seems to encapsulate that sense of, there's another lyric in the song. It's, I don't know, it's like 20,000 years of this, 7 more to go or something. It's a very sort of coming to terms with the fact that the world is going to end in some kind of way. It's really beautiful. So anyway, it's an iconic song, but this is one of my favorite lyrics of all time, just because of how beautifully symmetrical it is. Also, like meaning wise and word wise. So just word wise, if you do a gift shop at the gun range, you have the G and the G, right? The way that they're spaced. Yep. A mass shooting at the mall, we have the M and the N.
Yeah.
So the cadence is the same. The kind of alliteration does a similar thing, and then it's symmetrical in its meaning, right? It's a comment on capitalism. This idea of I don't know. I feel like I don't need to dig into it more. Just it's just a really beautiful line.
Like in this lyric, you're talking about a mass shooting at a mall. Mass shootings in the States is a cultural phenomenon that's not as rare as it
doesn't happen anywhere else in the world.
Not at that rate. Like even statistically, you're still really unlikely to experience that. I've looked at the statistics. I mean, think of how many millions of people there are in the States. But it happens enough that it's like frightening that we're talking about almost daily there's shootings going on somewhere, right? What they describe as a mass shooting. I can't remember what the definition is. It's like
I think it's like 3 or more people or something like that,
right? But it's
not very many.
But it's still like it's terrifying how many of those get reported per capita compared to other places. It's still terrifying. So and we're not hearing about all the just individual shootings as often either. So
it's wild. I don't know, like anyone who can write about capitalism and the decay of society in an interesting and poetic way has got my props. So
cool.
Kudos, Bo Burnham. Kudos.
All right. Yeah, you might enjoy Kendrick Lamar then too, because there's hints of that in there for sure of how things are falling apart and him trying to find some.
I can't believe you've never watched Inside. I'm going to watch it with you. I'm going to come over and we're going to watch it together because I've seen it about 10 times and I'm down to watch it again.
You know what? I am so weird when it comes to the media I consume. It's almost like when something becomes popular, I'm like less drawn to it. And then I get that. And it's not even out of a pretentious hipster kind of way. It's just like, it's just, I don't know. I'm trying to discover things on my own. I don't want what other people are telling me. But then eventually I get around to it. It was like that with Dune. I hadn't seen the first Dune film.
I haven't seen it still.
Oh my gosh.
I'm doing the exact same thing with Dune that you're doing with Inside.
Yeah, don't tell my brother that. He'll bug you until you see it. So
well, I really should see it.
My whole joke was going to be that I was going to wait till my funeral. And I was going to be dead, and then we were going to watch Dune for my funeral. That's what I was going to carry the joke to my death. That's what I wanted to do, and then force everybody to watch Dune at my funeral, and I still haven't seen it. But I gave in.
I'm glad that joke didn't come to fruition.
Yeah. It would have been a great joke, but later in life.
Really deep commitment to a joke if you're gonna do that.
Yeah. Anyways, okay.
Let's hear your number one.
Let's hear my number one. Here we go. And I will haunt these hills forever without a reason to believe. When I can feel you beating inside of me, I have everything I need. In a world that isn't ours, in a place we shouldn't be, for a minute, just a minute, we made it feel like home. And this is Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. You made it feel like home. From the film Bones and All, which I don't know if I didn't force you to watch it, but I definitely influenced you to watch.
You strongly endorsed it,
this film.
It was one of my more regrettable watches. But I did end up, just as a side note, I did end up recommending to another friend of mine who's a movie buff, and he really liked it.
Oh yeah.
So people do like this movie.
Yeah.
I just didn't.
It was a lot of people's pick of the year that year in terms of just good film, I guess. This is from the film Bones and All. Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross did the score and then created an original song for it. And I love when Trent does this. It's Trent's, again, for those of you who don't know, Trent's a well-known film composer, but he was originally in the band called Nine Inch Nails. The most recognizable song you will know by Trent Reznor is a song called Hurt, but you will know it because Johnny Cash covered it. That's the majority of people think that Johnny Cash wrote that song. The majority of mainstream, I should say. Most of us in the know, or most of us in the art scene know he didn't. But yeah, "Hurt" by Nine Inch Nails is Trent Reznor's definitely one of his best songs. I almost put that in here, but I thought that was almost too obvious.
Too on the nose.
Too on the nose. But yeah, that's one of Trent Reznor's best songs. It's immortalized. Anyways, so sometimes he writes music for his films, and sometimes he doesn't do it under Nine Inch Nails. Sometimes he just does it under Trent Reznor, Atticus Ross. And I keep saying him, but there's two of them. And people forget to mention Atticus. Atticus was involved in this song as well, but Trent does sing on this song. So what the film is about, and it's really important to know, I don't need to spoil anything by saying this. It really is about people who feel on the fringe and are trying to find, I guess, trying to be seen, trying to find companionship, trying to find acceptance, trying to find their place in the world. And, in the film, it's literal cannibals. I mean, they're cannibals. They're cannibals, and they have community. Like they can sense each other, they can smell each other, and yeah, like it's very horrific. The idea that they feel ashamed about the fact that they're cannibals and they can't really expose themselves that way. Although some characters are, come to terms with the fact that they're cannibals and they're fine with it. But yeah, ultimately they're cannibals, and it's not a good thing by their own definition. But as the film goes on, it kind of explores these ideas of, there are things that we naturally struggle with that hurt others, and I guess you could look at addiction as a good example of this, right? People who have addiction, it's like almost become a part of themselves, and they can't seem to stop it, no matter how much it's hurting other people. And so there's a lot of shame over that, and they try to hide that. And it's almost like you need other people to find healing through that. You need to find people that will help you accept that part of yourself and maybe move past that. And I don't want to ruin the film too much, because I probably could talk more about what happens in it to make that point stronger. But the song itself literally talks about, when they did find each other, the two characters in the film, and it's like, just for a minute, you made it feel like home. That line there it destroyed me when I first heard it. It destroyed me in the theater. I bawled so hard in this movie at the theater. I went to it with an ex who was somebody that I was really emotionally connected to. And both of us, I felt like this person was somebody I met who was somebody who I found acceptance of some of my darker side with. I found I could be completely naked emotionally with this person and completely myself and not feel ashamed and feel okay. So to experience this movie with them and knowing we have that connection was really, really powerful. And that relationship is gone. And now it's not in my life anymore. And I remember when I saw this film, I had a similar, actually, a response to Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Very similar response. Saw it with an ex as well. And there's an emotional through in that film that made sense for us. But I knew when I was watching that film, I was like, I know the relationship I'm in right now is temporary. This isn't going to last forever. I'm getting a slice of feeling what it's like to be whole in some ways. And not that the relationship itself completed me. I hate that kind of idea, but yeah, more that I felt complete because I could just be myself around somebody for once. That whole idea. And we had this camaraderie that was just so deep. So the film definitely talks about the fleeting element of that. And the song talks about that as well. Just for a minute, you made it feel like home, but it wasn't going to last forever. I'll haunt these hills forever. It does haunt you. It does. The memory of that will haunt you. But it's not going to last forever. And I'm feeling that. I'm experiencing this right now. I'm experiencing it. I don't have this connection in my life anymore, but it's haunting me constantly. Like it just is. And this song, it was like an omen. It was an omen when I heard it. It was an omen for me. And I was what I was seeing on the screen was an omen for me in some ways. So yeah, extremely profound artistic experience. Maybe the most profound experience I've had ever in my life with a piece of media. And to give you some context, prior to seeing this film, the movie The Fountain was my favorite film of all time. And that had been for many years.
Aronofsky.
Yeah. Love-hate relationship with him, but The Fountain is fantastic. But anyways, and this actually, I think, supplanted that, which I'd never had a film do that in many, many years. Yeah, I've never, this was actually way more profound even than that film was for me. So, yeah, that's my last pick. The song is beautiful.
As a just a Aronofsky aside,
yeah.
I really like The Whale. I think that's probably, but I was never into The Fountain. It was a little bit too too in the woo woo for me. Like I like his more practical. Like didn't he do Mother or something like that too? I'm trying to remember. Yeah, which are. Yeah, it was like around a similar time where he did The Whale, but we don't need to. I didn't mean to make this about movies, but just a thought I had. Another thought I was having when you were talking about that line about however it goes for a minute, it felt like home or something about home. The idea of finding home in another person or through with another person, but that home isn't them per se. It's the greater you.
Exactly.
Like the you who's more yourself, like the kind of settling into your selfness more because of what this person is essentially catalyzed. I think is a really, really nifty, beautiful idea.
Yeah, it's something that almost everybody can relate to at some level, you know. And I know the film goes to extremes and talks about cannibals, but in some ways it left it open enough to make you relate to the idea that I love the laugh, but like
Phil went extreme, just like it's about cannibals, whatever. But
well, yeah, but I mean, like it doesn't it because it is about cannibals, and that's kind of an absurd concept. Although very symbolic, you're literally devouring somebody because of your affliction, but or your identity even. It leaves it then open for anybody to really go in and say, hey, somebody who's a misfit or somebody who feels like they're on the fringe can like that's them. They see themselves in that. Obviously we're not literal cannibals, we're not literal murderers, but having that absurd concept makes it easily relatable then to everybody who's feeling like an outsider. It's not like I think the book was a little more, from what I understand, the book was a little more directly applying to
about queerness.
Yeah, exactly. And the film still carries that in, but I think I like that it left it a little more open-ended so that it casts a broader net for relatability. Yeah,
it's highly allegorical. Like one thing, but the movie is delivered very literally. Yeah, in that which is a little intense to watch, but it is allegorical all the way through.
Yeah, I don't recommend if you're squeamish.
I'm a little squeamish.
Yeah.
So having gone through our favorite lyrics of the moment, the ones that happen to resonate with us right now, I'm reflecting on genius a little bit, and just what's the genius in these lines. And one thing that I think this is like an interesting thought that I've been sitting with is the idea that genius is a talent for producing something for which no rule can be given. It's not something that can be learned by following some rule or other. There's no steps to writing a great lyric.
Right.
There's something that's far more messy, and I'm just thinking about this, like there's this thrumming void of imagination which you can't curate the steps to, but which these artists seem to exist in and bring forth something from it. So maybe a little bit of an abstract idea, but
no, and I mean, we could probably go on about, I'm not a super spiritual person, but there is something transcendent about those moments in art. And you almost feel connected to something bigger in those moments. And I think it's almost like art itself. If I had to make any argument for there to be some kind of higher power or creator or universe, whatever you want to call these things, it's almost like art would be the place where I would find more evidence of that than anywhere, right? And
that's
and again, I'm not even the person who has those kind of beliefs. So no,
I mean, same. That's where my philosophical journey leads me. In particular, is to these like kind of messy unknowns, or the kind of truths that are experienced through things like art, which have validity, but doesn't really can't really be quantified in a scientific way. You can't measure an emotional response to a Radiohead song.
Yeah, all
You know
you can do is see like, oh yeah, like these neurons are firing and this kind of thing. But
the experience is not reducible to neurons.
Exactly. Yeah,
So
and it goes beyond that in its transformation too. Like they're people literally transform because of art, which is wild to think about. You know.
that it's got this like shifting quality.
Yeah.
We interpret it and it changes us, and this is like back and forth shaping.
I didn't add a Marilyn Manson lyric because he's a very problematic person. But I will say that when I first listened to Antichrist Superstar as a youth, I sat down and listened to it front to back, headphones on, eyes closed, lying down. And I actually came out of listening to that a different person. Like I did. I did. Maybe a little more jaded, maybe a little more, a little darker, but in some ways more in touch with those things inside of me that were like saying, you know what, something's really wrong about status quo. Something's really messed up. Why are you not allowed to be more expressive, more like, why are you constrained to all these different things? I was religious at the time too. Like there was definitely something very transformative about that. So I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that album for that reason. Whether he was he was a terrible person back then, never mind. And that was very obvious. But there was something about that art piece that was important and transformed me. So
awesome.
Anyways, there's a million lyrics.
So
yeah.
You ready to?
Oh, real quick. No, before you do that, do you have any honorable mentions? Not lyrics, but just artists that you missed out on because of our constraints.
Yeah. I cut Tom York. I cut Isaac Brock from Modest Mouse.
Okay.
Who else did I cut? I cut Emily Haynes from Metric. These were all in my longer list where I had 10 selections. I really like the album Art of Doubt by Metric, so I definitely would have picked a lyric from that. What about you?
Yeah.
Aside from Marilyn Manson.
Yeah, definitely Manson for obvious reasons, but Zach De La Rocha from Rage Against the Machine. I didn't get to include any of that. I'm trying to think. I mean, there's so many Trent Reznor lines. I just feel like his catalog is so big. He's probably going to have the biggest catalog in the history of music by the time he's done, honestly.
If he has another 20, 30 years of
seriously
productive life ahead of him yet. Yeah.
I mean, Lights is a big artist for me. Purity Ring. I'm trying to think who else.
Purity Ring, interesting.
Yeah, I love Purity Ring. Churches, I really like Churches.
Churches.
Little Peep. Actually, Little Peep is one I begrudgingly had to cut because there was no space. But Little Peep, I mean, we'll do another one of these and we'll definitely get some of these other artists in there.
Nice.
I think, yeah. Anyways.
Cool. All right. Well, this has been a fun experience. I've enjoyed listening to I got some new inspiration of things I can listen to as well.
Yeah, I got a list. Great experience too, putting it together. I want to say that too. I really enjoyed having to dig and think about things because as I was telling you in a previous episode, I don't pay attention to lyrics as often as I'd like to anymore. And
lately anyway,
I'm such a melodic person now, or production-based soundscapes, all those kinds of things. So when a lyric really hits me now, it's like it really hits me. So it was really nice to just dig and have to like focus on that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I really enjoyed that experience as well. Just listening to music for a few hours feels like such a treat. It's really almost like a decadent experience.
Yeah, it was decadent. That's a good way of putting it. What? I'm just listening to music for fun?
Yeah, exactly. No life responsibilities.
Yeah. Okay, so you've prepared for us our segment for today. We have a quote of the day.
Yes, I've got a quote.
You've got a quote.
Advice? I don't have advice. Stop aspiring and start writing. If you're writing, you're a writer. Write like you're a goddamn death row inmate and the governor is out of the country and there's no chance for a pardon. Write like you're clinging to the edge of a cliff, white knuckles on your last breath, and you've got just one last thing to say, like you're a bird flying over us and you can see everything. And please, for God's sake, tell us something that will save us from ourselves. Take a deep breath and tell us your deepest, darkest secret so we can wipe our brow and know that we're not alone. Write like you have a message from the king, or don't. Who knows? Maybe you're one of the lucky ones who doesn't have to. And this is from Alan Watts, who is he's an old fave. I've been a big fan of Alan Watts' writings since I was a teenager.
Oh, cool.
I think a lot of people actually come to Alan Watts as teenagers. Maybe like, the kind of stoned teenager, like, whoa, that's deep, man. Alan Watts was one of my first experiences with that. But he was kind of a really well-known philosopher, professor, lecturer in the fields of philosophy, but also religion and spirituality. So he intersected a lot of concepts from the East I think in the 50s and 60s, and brought them to an American audience in a way that was like maybe less common back then. But yeah, I mean, he's always really eloquent, and I thought this one was topical with talking about lyrics. It's just the idea of, just first of all, write. Damn it, just write. Just do it. Just do it. We need you to do it. It's I don't know. There's like one person here listening somewhere where it's like, no, you sitting there. I'm directly talking to you. You need to write because we need to hear it. And the idea that write like your life depends on it. The white knuckling. It's sort of. I don't know. This is one of those quotes that I like going back to because it feels like it's a little bit of a like slap in the face. Like, okay, I gotta take this seriously. Don't mess around, Allysia. Like, it's too important. I gotta write. It's too important to write. Everything else is just like all the tasks of the day, all the chores and inconveniences and little micro interactions. All of those are just like there's not very many things in life that really matter.
Right.
There's like. You have relationships that matter. That's it pretty much. You have like relationships, but there's also this like deep need to connect and for us to understand each other. This thing that art gives us, which feels like a need for most people. I like how he ended it, or don't. Who knows? Maybe you're one of the lucky ones who doesn't have to, because that's what it feels like. It's like, no, I have to. Understand myself or understand others, and I have to write.
What's it like?
And so it's so easy to forget that.
Like, what's it like to be one of the lucky ones? Maybe that's the question.
Doesn't have to do that,
because there are people like this who just kind of go about their daily lives and they just do very practical things and they're not thinking in this kind of brain. I've met lots of those people.
But that's also, you're describing me 99% of the time.
Right.
It's a practical person going through life. Well, I think even artists are not living in this art zone most of the time, right?
But there's always this reflection going on, right? I think there's always like we're not just looking at things mindlessly most of the time. Like I don't know about you, but I almost feel like I'm trying to shut my brain off way too much because I can't stop thinking about all the minutia of I think was one of the things that it kind of gets at is like it's almost like purpose, the time is very limited, but that quote gives that to me, right? The time is so limited, like you have to give it all now because we need you. And in some ways there's an urgency there. And
right now.
Yeah. Right. And I feel like, that also goes with like, I don't know, for me, I feel like I that's me all day, every day. I'm always in that mindset of like, I need to do this now. I need to do this now because I feel like I'm going to run out of time. So I would love to be able to shut that off is what I'm trying to say.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. I could see that being really, really tiring it's sort of like the idea of if you contemplate your mortality and you're thinking, okay, one day I'm going to die and it could be tomorrow, it could be today. If you hold that with you, it makes things more meaningful because you're creating this sort of contrast. You're like, whoa, that allows it to feel more meaningful. But if you're always, the Reaper's always right beside you, you're always thinking through this idea of like, shit, I could die. I got to do my really important. That would be extremely exhausting. For me, this is the kind of quote that I need to kind of wake me out of my stupor because I feel like, at least now, I used to be a really way more anxious existentially than I am now. So now I need that reminder. I need that cold splash of water in my face. Like, oh yeah, I got to write. I got to like remember what matters.
Yeah, I love that you said that existential dread stuff because I mean, I'm there way too often, in line with that. And there's got to be a happy medium. I think it's good to, not necessarily be stuck on thinking about our mortality and how that impacts our day, but we do have to consider that because then we can prioritize things and be very much more purposeful with what we do. But then on the other side of it, not let it bring me down into deep, dark pits of despair and anxiety. So the other balance is, when can I shut that off? Honestly, the only time I can really shut it off is playing video games. This is the main time. Well, not the only time, but that's the easiest way. Mm-hmm. It's quick. It engages all the parts of my brain that it needs to like get me away from that. You know?
Yeah.
Sometimes visiting with other person
puts you in a
helps,
different world.
But yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Anyways, it's a really good quote.
I like it.
It's a good splash of water. I do like that idea. It's like
good cold splash of water.
Yeah.
Some of us, your mileage might vary. Some of us need that cold splash. Some of us could probably use like an opposite type of splash, like a. I don't know what kind of splash you need.
Hot splash. Hot splash. No, just kidding.
Hot splash. Yeah, not a cold splash. Yeah, exactly.
I don't know.
This is so random. There's this comic book I used to love. It's a manga called Ranma. And Ranma and some other characters, if they were splashed with hot water, he would turn back into a man. But if he was splashed with cold water, he'd turn into a woman version of himself. It was just a really early 80s kind of
cool.
gender bending Japanese comic. Yeah, it was fun.
Oh, but I thought that woke agenda was modern. I thought it only happened in the 20s.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You mean we talked about
the Japanese are way ahead of us.
We talked about transgender things in the 80s and 90s?
Yeah. And martial arts, like what a perfect combination.
Oh, yeah.
Transgender martial arts, like it's a great comic.
That's wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah. On that note.
Well, it's been a really good visit. Really good.
Yes.
Some nice reflection on some lyrics. And I don't know about you, but I am somewhat inspired to finish some of my own lyrical things now after this. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was doing that yesterday. I was trying to develop some ideas I've had on the shelf.
Good.
Yeah, so I guess maybe this has the consequence of putting us back in the lyric mood.
Well, and you know what? In terms of the purpose of this show, I feel like sometimes my little ulterior motive here is to give ourselves little bursts of inspiration here and there. So we can stay in art mode.
Exactly. It's a nice little, for us, but also for anyone who chooses to listen.
Yeah.
We want to create a little, I was going to say cocoon is totally the wrong word. I'm thinking more of like a zone, kind of ethereal zone where we can remember that we're artists. So just like we're blocking out the noise of regular life for an hour. It's something, right?
Yeah, 100%. No, I feel that every time we do this show. I feel immersed in that in that spirit. Well, I guess that's going to conclude our show for today.
Nice. All right. Well, thanks for dealing with us. Since I'm traveling, I'll be back in a bit, but in the meantime, we have to do this sort of distance remote setup. So thanks for your patience with that.
Yeah, and we have a quick comment I'll just refer to. We got Nick Prudent in the chat saying hi from Montreal. Good job, you two. The creative in me enjoyed this immensely. Thank you so much,
awesome.
Nick. Thank you so much for checking it out. Yeah, we appreciate it.
Yeah, we really appreciate it.
Yeah, and come back.
Cool.
We're here every 2 weeks on Sunday.
And for a marathon, a few hours. And you can find us on all the socials that are out there, Facebook, TikTok, we're on YouTube, we're on Spotify, we're all over the place. Just look up Creative Colosseum and you'll find us. Yeah, and I think we've decided that we're on a Wednesday schedule. So if you access us via podcast, like Spotify, we just went up on Apple Music, I think. Or whatever it's called. I'm obviously not an Apple user, so I feel like I'm 80 years old right now. But you can check us out there every Wednesday.
Awesome. Okay, everybody. Well, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for checking us out. And have a great week. Being creative.
Yeah, nice. Take care, everyone.
Thanks for checking out this episode of The Creative Colosseum. We'll see you next time. The Creative Colosseum is mixed and edited by David Roman. Executive producers are Allysia Van Betju and David Roman. Gear support provided by Roman Empire Studios. Theme music created by Roman Music YQR. Recorded live on location in Regina, Canada, Treaty 4 territory. Voiceover performed by Sundance Robson. Logo design provided by Danielle Austin. Special thanks Kyle Parkinson, Laura Posadka, and Rob Hillstead. The Creative Colosseum is a Nerd Party entertainment production in conjunction with Piano TV. Now get back out there and conquer your creativity.